remaining chapter of human physiology of mind is locomotion and movement. Let's finish it today by itself. Okay, get started. Okay. Movement is one of the significant features of living beings. Animals, plants exhibit a wide range of movement. Stream of protoplasm is the in the unicellular organisms like the amoeba is a simple form of movement. Movement of cilia, flagella, tentacles are shown by many organisms. Human beings can move limbs, jaws, eyelid, tongue, etc. Some of the movement result in a change of place or locomotion. Such voluntary movements are called locomotion. Walking, running, climbing, flying, swimming are all of some form of locomotory movements. Locomotory structures need not be different from those affecting other type of movements. For example, in paramecium, cilia help in the movement of food through the cytopharynx and in locomotion as well. Hydra can use its tentacle for capturing its prey and also use them for the locomotion. Paramecium cilia help in the movement of food through the cytopharynx and in locomotion. Hydra tentacles capturing the prey and also used in the locomotion. We use limbs for the change in the body posture and locomotions as well. The above observations suggested that movement and locomotion cannot be studied separately. The two may be linked by the starting that all locomotions are movement but all movements are not locomotions. Methods of locomotion performed by the animals vary करती है with their habitat and demand of situation के साथ. However, locomotion generally for search of food के लिए किया जाता है, shelter के लिए किया जाता है, mate के लिए किया जाता है, and suitable breeding grounds, favorable climate conditions, or to escape from the enemies and the predators. Type of movements की बात करते हैं तो cell of the human body exhibit three main type of movements, namely amoeboid, ciliary, and muscular. Some specialized cells in our body, like the macrophages, leukocytes, and blood, exhibit amoeboid movements. It is affected by pseudopodia formed by the streaming of the protoplasm as in amoeba. Cytoskeletal elements like the microfilaments are also involved in the amoeboid movements. Ciliary movements occupy in most of our internal tubular organs which are lined by ciliated epithelium. The coordinated movement of cilia in the trachea help in the removing dust particles and some of the foreign substances inhale along with the atmospheric air. Passage of ova through the female reproductive tract is also facilitated by the ciliary movement. Movement of our limbs, jaws, tongues, etc. required the muscular movement. The contractile property of muscles are effectively used for locomotion and other movements by human beings and majority of the multicellular organisms. Locomotions require a perfect coordinated activity of musculoskeletal and neural system. In this chapter, you will learn about the type of muscles, their structure, mechanism of their contraction and important aspects of the skeletal system. मसल की बात करते हैं तो मसल मेसोडर्मल ओरिजिन होती है, तो एक्सेप्शंस हैं. iris, auxiliary muscles, and core expression है इसका. You have studied in chapter 8 that the cilia and flagella are the outgrowth of the cell membrane. यूकैरियोट्स में जो सीलिया एंड फ्लैजिला होते हैं वो यूकैरियोट्स में सेल मेम्ब्रेन की आउटग्रोथ होते हैं, और प्रोकैरियोट्स में सीलिया एंड फ्लैजिला होते हैं वो सेल वॉल की आउटग्रोथ होते हैं. Flagellar movement help in the swimming of the protozoa, maintaining of the water currents in the canal system of the sponges, and in locomotion of the protozoans like the euglena. Although protozoa, euglena protozoa नहीं है, बट एक कॉमन एस्पेक्ट में लिखा हुआ है. Muscles is a specialized tissue of the mesodermal origin. About 40 to 50% of the body weight of the human adult is contributed by the muscles. They have special properties like the excitability, contractibility, extensibility, and the elasticity. Muscles has been classified using the different criteria, namely locomotion, appearance, nature of using different based on their लोकेशन, मतलब कहाँ कहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है. 3 टाइप्स की मसल्स हैं. लोकेशन के बेसिस पे मसल्स आर क्लासिफाइड एज अ स्केलेटल मसल, विसरल मसल एंड कार्डियक मसल. Skeletal muscles are closely associated with the skeletal components of the body. They have striated appearance under the microscopes and hence are called the striated muscles. As their activity are under the voluntary control of the nervous system, they are known as the voluntary muscles too. They are primarily involved in the locomotory actions and change of body posture. Visceral muscles are located in the inner wall of the hollow visceral organs of the body, like the alimentary canals, reproductive tracts. They do not exhibit any striations and are smooth in appearance. Hence, they are called as a smooth muscles, non-striated muscles. Appearance में non-striated है. Location में smooth muscles कहा जाता है. Appearance में non-striated कहा जाता है. Their activity are called under the voluntary control of the their activities are not under the voluntary control of the nervous system, and therefore they are known as the involuntary muscles. They consist they assist, for example, in the transportation of the food through the digestive tract and gametes through the genital tract. As the name suggests, cardiac muscle are the muscles of heart. Many cardiac muscle cells assemble in branching pattern. कार्डियक मसल में ब्रांचिंग देखने को मिलती है. To form a cardiac muscle, based on the appearance, cardiac muscle are striated. They are involuntary in nature, and as the nervous system do not control their activities directly. Let us examine a skeletal muscle in detail to understand the structure and mechanism of the contraction. Each organized skeletal muscle in our body is made up of the number of muscle bundles. मसल में मसल बंडल्स को ही हम फेसिकल्स कहते हैं. और ये मैं भाई 56 बार भूली हूँ, मतलब भूल जाती हूँ कि मसल बंडल ही फेसिकल्स को कहा जाता है. हेल्ड टुगेदर बाय अ कॉमन कोलेजिनस कनेक्टिव टिश्यू. कैसा कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है? कोलेजिन का बना हुआ कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है, लेयर्ड कॉल दी फेसिया वो कनेक्टिव टिश्यू जो इन मसल बंडल्स को कंबाइनली जोड़कर रखती है. हेल्ड टुगेदर दीज मसल बंडल्स और फेसिकल्स. तो मसल बंडल्स आर दी फेसिकल्स, ये बहुत ध्यान रखना. Each muscle bundles, each fascicle containing a number of muscle fibers. हर बंडल पहले मसल है, मसल के अंदर मसल बंडल्स हैं, मसल बंडल्स के अंदर मसल फाइबर्स हैं. Each muscle fiber is lined by the plasma membrane called the sarcolemma, enclosing the sarcoplasm. Muscle fiber is lined by plasma membrane. Muscle fiber is lined by the plasma membrane called the sarcolemma, enclose the sarcoplasm. Muscle fiber is lined by the plasma membrane. ठीक है. मसल बंडल के अंदर मसल फाइबर्स के लाइनिंग जो है बाहर वाली, जो प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन को बनाती है, मसल की प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन को साइकोलेमा कहते हैं, और जो उसका साइटोप्लाज्म होता है उसको सार्कोप्लाज्म कहते हैं. मसल फाइबर इज सेंसाइशियम एज द सार्कोप्लाज्म कंटेन मैनी न्यूक्लियाई. द endoplasmic reticulum, that is the sarcoplasmic reticulum of the muscles, is the storehouse of the calcium, and a characteristic feature है जो कि muscle fibers का is the presence of the large number of the parallelly arranged filaments in the sarcoplasm called the myofilaments or the myofibrils. Each myofibrils ही myofilaments हैं. Each myofibrils has the alternate dark and light bands on it. A detailed study of the muscle fiber has established that the striated appearance is due to the distribution pattern of two important proteins, actin and myosin. The light band contain actin is called as I band or isotropic band, whereas the dark band called the A band or anisotropic band contain the myosin. Both the proteins are arranged as the rod-like structure parallel to the each other and also to the longitudinal axis of the myofibrils. ठीक है. हर मसल्स के पास अल्टरनेट लाइट एंड डार्क बैंड्स होते हैं. ठीक है. स्ट्राइडेड अपीयरेंस देते हैं जो कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पैटर्न ऑफ एक्टिन एंड मायोसिन. द लाइट बैंड जो होती हैं उन्हें आई बैंड कहा जाता है. आइसोट्रोपिक बैंड वेयर्स द ए बैंड को डार्क बैंड कहा जाता है. एनिसोट्रोपिक बैंड, आइसोट्रोपिक आई बैंड है, ए वाला एनिसोट्रोपिक बैंड है. ठीक है. मायोसिन, बोथ प्रोटीन्स जो होती हैं, मायोसिन एंड एक्टिन क्या है? प्रोटीन ही तो है. Proteins are arranged as rod-like structure parallel to the each other and also to the longitudinal axis of the myofibrils. Actin filaments are thinner as compared to the myosin filaments, hence are commonly called as thin filaments and thick filaments respectively. In the center of each eye band is an elastic fiber called the Z line, which bisect it. The thin filaments are firmly attached to the Z line. The thick filaments in the A band are also held together in the middle of the band by the thin fibrous membrane called the M line. M line fibrous है, Z line elastic है. The A and I bands are arranged alternate throughout the length of the myofibrils. The portion of myofibrils between the two successive Z lines is occupied by the functional unit of the contraction called the sarcomere. In a resting state, the edges of thin filaments on either side of the thick filaments partially overlap the free ends of the thick filaments, leaving the central part of the thick filaments. This center part of the thick filament, which is not overlapped by the thin filaments, is called the H zone. डायग्राम देख लेते हैं. दो कुछ नहीं है. मसल फाइबर्स. एक और चीज़, जो मसल बंडल है उसको वेसिकल कहते हैं. उसके अंदर मसल फाइबर्स हैं. उन मसल फाइबर्स को मसल सेल्स कहा जाता है. ब्लड कैपिलरीज दिखाई गई हैं. सार्कोलेमा दिखाया गया है. एंड वेसिकल्स जिन्हें मसल बंडल्स कहते हैं. मसल सेल्स में कहते हैं. डायग्रामेटिक क्रॉस सेक्शन व्यू ऑफ द मसल्स शोइंग द मसल बंडल्स एंड मसल फाइबर्स. यहाँ पे हमें डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ द एनाटॉमी ऑफ द मसल्स फाइबर्स शोइंग द सार्कोमियर एंड द सार्कोमियर दिखाई गई है. जेड लाइन इलास्टिक फाइबर्स की बनी हुई है. एम लाइन कैसी है? थिन फाइबर्स है, जहाँ पे कोई भी लाइट बैंड नहीं प्रेजेंट है ए बैंड के ऊपर, वो एच जोन है जहाँ पे सिर्फ थिक फिलामेंट है, ओवरलैपिंग जोन है, जेड लाइन है, आइसोट्रोपिक बैंड है, ठीक है, सार्कोमियर इज द स्पेस बिटवीन द टू जेड लाइंस। पूरी थिक फिलामेंट की जो लेंथ है वो ए बैंड कहलाती है। द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द कॉन्टेक्टाइल प्रोटीन की बात करते हैं। ईच एक्टिन थिन filament is made up of two F filament actin helically filamentous actins helically wound to each other. Each F actin is a polymer of monomeric G globular actin. Two filaments of another protein, tropomyosin, also run close to the F actin throughout its length. A complex protein ध्यान लगा के पढ़ो, फोकस फोकस फोकस। Each actin thin filament is made up of F filamentous actins helically wound to each other. Each F actin is a polymer of monomer G globular actins. Two filaments of another protein, tropomyosin, also run close to the F actin throughout its length. A complex protein, troponin, is distributed at regular intervals on the tropomyosin. In the resting state, a subunit of troponin masks the active binding site for myosin on the actin filament. Each myosin thick filament is also polymerized protein. Many monomeric protein called the meromyosin constitute one thick filament. Each पढ़ो ध्यान लगा के, दिमाग में कुछ घुस नहीं रहा। बस पढ़ते पढ़ते ना ओवर थिंकिंग होने लगती है। 20 मिनट हो गए पढ़ते ना, 20 मिनट और लगेंगे ख़त्म करने में। जल्दी पढ़ के ख़त्म करते हैं, फिर अभी थोड़ा जीके वगैरह तैयार करना है, बहुत काम है, इंट्रोडक्शन तैयार करना है। हाँ फोकस से पढ़ो, पानी पी लो थोड़ा। ठीक है, फिर से आ जाओ। Two filaments of the another protein, tropomyosin, also run करते हैं close to the F actin throughout the length. Complex protein distributed होता है at the regular the tropomyosin के ऊपर। In the resting state में सब यूनिट ऑफ ट्रोपोनिन मास्क करके रखती है एक्टिव बाइंडिंग साइट जो होती है मायोसिन के लिए ऑन एक्टिन फिलामेंट्स के ऊपर। ईच मायोसिन मोटा थिक फिलामेंट इज ऑल्सो पॉलीमराइज प्रोटीन होती है। मैनी मोनोमेरिक प्रोटीन्स कॉल्ड द मीरोमायोसिन कंस्टिट्यूट करती है वन थिक फिलामेंट्स को। ईच मीरोमायोसिन हैज two important parts, globular head and a short arm with a tail and tail. The former is called the heavy meromyosin and latter is called the light meromyosin. The heavy meromyosin constitute tube, the globular head with the short arm. ठीक है. And light meromyosin is the tail part. The heavy meromyosin component, that is the head and short arm, projected outward at a regular distance and angled from each other from the surface of polymerized myosin filaments, and it is also known as the cross arm. The globular head is an active ATPase enzyme and has a binding site for the ATP and active site for actin. तो एक्टिव साइट फॉर एक्टिन के लिए वो ऊपर होती है और एटीपी बाइंडिंग साइट उसके नीचे होती है. मतलब डायग्राम में रिप्रेजेंटेशन याद रखना ना, ऊपर नीचे के. Troponin छोटे छोटे प्रोटीन रेगुलर इंटरवल पर. ट्रोपोमायोसिन थ्रेड लाइक स्ट्रक्चर जो गिरन करते हैं पैरेलल टू द एफ एक्टिन, एंड एफ एक्टिन आर द फिलामेंटस एक्टिन. अल्कली जो कि बाउंड होते हैं, उनकी मोनोमरिक यूनिट क्या होती है, ग्लोबुलर एक्टिन. और क्रॉस आर्म बनती है हैवी मीरोमायोसिन में, जिसमें हेड एंड नेक दोनों आते हैं. क्रॉस आर्म हेड को मिला के डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन. मीरोमायोसिन इज द मोनोमरिक यूनिट. ओके. मायोसिन प्रोटीन कॉन्टेक्टाइल है. मोनोमर मीरोमायोसिन, जिसमें कि हैवी मेरो क्रॉस आर्म कहते हैं. हैवी मीरोमायोसिन को एक क्रॉस आर्म कहते हैं, जिसमें कि हेड एंड शॉर्ट आर्म होते हैं. मैकेनिज्म ऑफ द मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन की बात करते हैं. मैकेनिज्म ऑफ मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन में हमें देखने को मिलेगी. Mechanism of muscle contraction is best explained by the sliding filament theory, which stated that the contraction of the muscle fiber take place by the sliding of the thin filaments over the thick filament. Muscle contraction is initiated by the single sent by the central nervous system CNS via motor neurons. A motor neuron along with the muscle fibers connected to its constituent a motor unit. The junction between the motor neurons and the sarcolemma of the muscle fibers is called as the neuromuscular junctions or the motor end plates. मैंने कुछ भी पढ़ लिया, दिमाग में कुछ चल रहा था, उस वजह से जो लिखा हुआ है उसमें मुझे कंसंट्रेट नहीं होता. कैसे पढ़ती हूँ. Muscle contraction is initiated by the signals sent by the central nervous system via motor neurons के जरिए सिग्नल्स आते हैं. A motor neuron along with the muscle fibers. एक मोटर न्यूरॉन और मसल फाइबर्स ये जब कनेक्ट होते हैं तो इट्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट अ मोटर यूनिट बनाते हैं. तो व्हाट इज अ मोटर यूनिट? अ मोटर यूनिट इज द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ द मसल फाइबर एंड द मोटर neuron is together form as the motor unit. The junction between the motor neurons and the sarcolemma of the muscle fibers is called as the neuromuscular junction or motor end plane. Neuromuscular junctions what? Motor neuron or sarcolemma of the sarcolemma of the muscle fibers. न्यूरोमस्कुलर जंक्शन का एक दूसरा नाम क्या है? मोटर एंड प्लेट. न्यूरोमस्कुलर जंक्शन का दूसरा नाम क्या है? मोटर एंड प्लेट. ओके. Then a neural signal reaching this junction release a neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Yeah, that's what it is. Those are chabbis rainy, which generate an action potential. ठीक है. The spread through the muscle fibers. A neural signal reaching this junction release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which generate an action potential in the sarcolemma. This is spread through the muscle fibers and cause the release of the calcium ion in the sarcoplasm. Increasing in the calcium level leads to the binding of the calcium with the subunit of the troponin on the actin filaments, and thereby removing the masking of active site for myosin. Active site for myosin. Active site for the myosin, utilizing the energy from ATP hydrolysis. Myosin head now binds to the exposed active site on the actin to form a cross bridge. फिगर में दिखाया गया है जैसा कि this pulls attached actin filaments towards the center of A band. The Z line attached to these actin are also pulled inward, thereby causing a shortening of the sarcomere. Contraction इसे कहेंगे. It is clear from the above step that during the shortening of the muscle, that is a contraction, the I band get reduced, whereas the A band retain its length. The myosin release the ADP and phosphorus goes back to its relaxed state. A new ATP binds and the cross bridge is broken. The ATP is again hydrolyzed by the myosin head and cycle of cross bridge formation. The myosin releases the ADP and phosphate goes back to its relaxed state. A new ATP binding and the cross bridge is broken. The ATP is again hydrolyzed by the myosin head and the cycle of the cross bridge formation. डायग्राम एक बार देख लेते हैं, पढ़ लेंगे, कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं. The cross bridge formation and the breakage is repeated, causing the further sliding. The processes continues till the calcium ion are pumped back to the sarcoplasmic cisternae, resulting in the masking of the actin filaments. This caused the return of the Z line back to their original position, that is the relaxation. The reaction time for the fibers can also vary in different muscles. This line is written that reaction time for the fiber muscle can vary in different muscles. Repeated mm, repeated activation of the muscles can lead to the accumulation of the lactic acid due to the anaerobic breakdown of the glycogen in them, causing fatigue. Muscle contains a red colored oxygen storing pigment called the myoglobin. Myoglobin contain a high in some of the red fibers, some of the muscles which give reddish appearance. Such muscles called as the red fibers. These muscles also contain plenty of the mitochondria, which can utilize the large amount of oxygen storing in them for ATP production. These muscles, therefore, can also be called aerobic muscles. On the other hand, some of the muscles possess very less quantity of the myoglobin and therefore appearance pale and whitish. These are the white fibers. Number of the mitochondria are also few in them, but the amount of the sarcoplasmic reticulum is high. They depends on the anaerobic process for the respiration, for the energy. Skeletal muscles की बात करते हैं. These are the mechanism of muscle fibers. Flight muscles. Flight muscles of sparrow में white होती है. White. ईगल वगैरह में रेड मसल्स होती है क्योंकि एनर्जी ज़्यादा जरूरत होती है लॉन्ग फ्लाइट्स में. जल्दी उड़ती हैं चिड़िया लोग तो उनको कम एनर्जी चाहिए तो उन्हें वाइट मसल फिट रहता है जल्दी. Skeletal muscles. Skeletal. Skeletal system. Skeletal system constitute of a framework of the bone and the few cartilage. This system has a significant role in the movement shown by the body. Imagine chewing food without jaws bone and walking around without the limbs bone. Bone and cartilage are specialized connective tissue and are formed and the former bone have hard matrix due to the calcium salt in it and later has a slightly pliable matrix due to the chondral salt. In human beings, this system is made up of 206 bone and a few cartilage. Grouped into it is grouped into two principal divisions, the axial and the appendicular skeletals. The axial and the appendicular skeletal. Axial skeletal comprises 80 bones distributed along the main axis of the body and the skull जिसमें कि contribute हमारा skull, vertebral column, sternum, ribs constitute करती हैं axial skeleton को. The skull is composed of the two sets of the bone, the cranial bone and the facial bones. Together, total form the 22 bones in the skull. The cranial bones are 8 in numbers and they form the hard protective outer covering cranium for the brain. The brain region is made up of the 14 skeletal elements which form the frontal part of the skull. Using the U-shaped bone called the hyoid as a present at the base of the buccal cavity, head is not the part of the skull. Each middle ear constitute each ear में तीन bones हैं, malleus, incus, stapes, collectively called as ear ossicles. इन तीनों को मिला के ear ossicles कहा जाता है, collectively called. The skull region articulates with the superior region of collectively skull. भी डायग्राम में देखो इसको. फ्रंटल, पेराइटल, टेम्पोरल, ऑसिपिटल. ऑसिपिटल कॉन्डाइल उसके नीचे, फिर उधर और पीछे हाइओइड है मसल कैविटी के अंदर. उसके बाद यहाँ पे हमारी है स्फिनॉइड, इधर है इथेमॉइड, यहाँ पे है, यहीं पे लेक्रेमल है, यहीं पे यहाँ नेजल बोन है, ये जाइगोमेटिक बोन है, ये मैग्जिला वाला पार्ट है हमारा, ये मैग्जिला है, नीचे जो मोस्ट होती है जॉज वो मैंडिबल है. मैग्जिला स्कल बोन में जो पेराइटल है और टेम्पोरल है वो दोनों से पेड़ होती हैं, बाकी सारी सिंगल होती हैं. और फ्रंटल में सारी पेड़ हैं ऑलमोस्ट. हमारे पास जो इथमॉइड है, एक होती है, इथमॉइड बोन एक है, मैक्सिला एक है, नहीं मैक्सिला दो है, किधर का एक इधर का, मैंडिबल एक है, मैंडिबल एक है, हायोइड एक है, ठीक है। अच्छा, vertebral column with the help of the two occipital condyles called the dicondylic skull. हमारा skull कैसा है, dicondylic skull है. Our vertebral column, that is formed by the 26 series of arranged unit called the vertebrae, and it's dorsally placed. It extended from the base of the skull and constitute the main framework of the trunk. ईच वर्टिब्रे हैज अ सेंट्रल हॉलो पोर्शन होती है जिसे न्यूरल कैनाल कहा जाता है, थ्रू जिसके जरिए स्पाइनल कॉर्ड पास होती है. द फर्स्ट वर्टिब्रे को एटलस कहते हैं एंड आर्टिकुलेट करते हुए द ऑसिपिटल कॉन्डाइल के साथ. द वर्टिब्रल कॉलम इज डिफरेंट The vertebral column is differentiated into the 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, एक coxal fused होती है and एक coaxial and एक sacral. Coaxial and sacral. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coaxial. Region starting from the skull. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coxal. 7 12 5 1. Starting from the skull. The number of the cervical are 7 in almost all the mammals, including the human beings. The vertebral column protected the spinal cord, support the head, and serve as the point of attachment for the ribs and articulation of and musculatures of the back. Sternum is the flat bone on the ventral midline of the thorax. The vertebral column का काम क्या है, प्रोटेक्ट करके स्पाइनल कॉर्ड को सपोर्ट करती है, हेड एंड severe as the point of attachment for the ribs and musculature on the back. Sternum flat bone on the ventral midline of the thorax पे है. There are the 12 pairs of the ribs होती हैं. Each rib is a thin flat bone connected dorsally to the her. Each rib is a thin flat bone connected dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to the sternum. It has two articulation surfaces on the dorsal ends and hence it is called the bicephalic. First 7 pair of the ribs are called the true ribs. Dorsally, they are attached to the thoracic vertebrae and they ventrally connected to the sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage. 8, 9, 10 pair of the ribs do not articulate with the sternum but join 7th ribs and help in the with the help of the hyaline cartilage. These are called the vertebrochondral false rib. Last two pairs, 11th and 12th ribs, are connected ventrally and are therefore called as the floating ribs. Thoracic vertebrae mm, ribs are not connected ventrally and are therefore called floating ribs. Thoracic vertebrae, ribs and sternum together form the rib cage. Ribs do not connect ventrally and therefore called floating ribs. Vertebrae ribs. Thoracic vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, ribs, sternum together form the rib cage. The bone of the limb, along with their girdles, constitute the appendicular skeletals. Along with their girdle constitute appendicular skeletal. Each limb is made up of 30 bones. The bones of the hand forelimbs are femur, radius, ulna, carpal, wrist bone, 8 numbers, metacarpals, palm bone, 5 number. Metacarpal's palm bone, पाँच in number and the phalanges are digits 14 in number. फिगर में दिखाया गया humerus radius ulna. Humerus radius humerus radius ulna. Ankle ठीक है आगे. Femur thigh bone, longest bone, tibia and the fibula. मतलब अच्छा है tibia tibia the femur, thigh bone, longest bone, and fibula, tarsal, ankle bone, 7 in numbers, metatarsals, 5 in numbers, and the phalanges, digits 14 in number, are the bones of the legs, hind limbs. A cup shaped bone called the patella covers the knee, ventral kneecap, pectoral, and the pelvic girdles. और ये थोड़ा सा बचा है पेक्टोरल वाला पास गर्डल्स एंड जॉइंट्स एंड डिसऑर्डर्स और समरी की दो तीन लाइन लिखें ठीक है आगे बढ़ते हैं पेक्टोरल पेल्विक गर्डल पेक्टोरल गर्डल चार है पेल्विक गर्डल दो है पहले से ही याद रखें bones help in the articulation of the upper and lower limbs respectively with the axial skeleton with each girdle is formed two half ईच गर्डल इज फॉर्म्ड ऑफ दो हाफ का बना हुआ है ईच हाफ हर एक हाफ में अगर देख हाफ ईच हाफ को देखा जाए पेक्टोरल गर्डल के कंसिस्ट ऑफ द सर्वाइकल एंड द स्कैपुला cervical each half of the pectoral girdle consists of the clavicles and scapula नींद चढ़ेंगे clavicles and scapula scapula is a large triangular flat bone situated in the dorsal part of the thorax between the second and the seventh rib. Between the second and the seventh rib. दो से लेके सात स्कैपुला वहां तक है पूरा फैला constitute dorsal part of the scapula is the large triangular flat bone situated in the dorsal part of the thorax between the second and the seventh rib. The dorsal flat triangular bone of the scapula has a slightly elevated ridge. The dorsal flat triangular bone of the scapula has a slightly elevated edge called as a spine with projects as a flat expanded process called the acromion. The clavicles articulate करती हैं इसके साथ with this. Below the acromion is a depression called the glenoid cavity, which articulate with the head of the humor to form the shoulder joint. Each clavicle is a long cylinder bone with two curvatures. This bone is commonly called the collarbone. This bone is commonly called the collarbone. Each clavicle is a long cylindrical bone with the two articulates. The long cylindrical bone with the two articulates. This bone is commonly called as the collarbone. The pelvic girdle consists of two coaxial bones. Each coaxial bone is formed by the fusion of the three bones, ilium, ischium, and the pubis. At the point of fusion of the above bone is a cavity called the acetabulum to which the thigh bone articulate. The two halves of the pelvic girdle meet ventrally to form the pubic symphysis constituting the fibrous cartilage. Which type of the cartilage is found there is the fibrous cartilage. Okay. हम्म जॉइंट्स की बात करते हैं डायग्राम देख लेंगे एक बार इलियम ऊपर फ्लैट कॉक्सिल बोन इशियम नीचे वाली और प्यूबिस फीमर पटेला टिबिया फिबुला टिबी आगे बढ़ के देखो पटेला आगे joints are the essential for all type of movements involving the body parts of the bony parts of the body. Locomotory movements are no exception. Next section to this. Joints are joints are the point of joints are the point of contact between the bone and between bones and the cartilage. Force generated by muscles is used to carry out movement through joints where the joint act as a fulcrum. The mobility at these joints vary depending upon the different factors. Joints has been classified into the three major structural forms, namely fibrous, cartilaginous, and synovial. Fibrous joints do not allow any movement. This type joint is shown by the flat skull bones, which fuse end to end with the help of the dense fibrous connective tissues in the form of sutures to form the cranium. In cartilaginous joints, ये dense fibrous connective tissue. In cartilaginous joints, the bone involved are joined together with the help of the cartilage. The joints between the adjacent vertebrae in the vertebral column is this pattern. Its permit limited movement. Synovial joints are the characterized by the presence of the fluid-filled synovial cavity with the articulating surfaces of the two bones. Such an arrangement allow considerable movement. These joints help in the locomotion and many other movements. Ball and socket joint between the humerus and the pectoral girdle, hinge joint, knee joint जिसको कहते हैं, pivoted joint between the atlas and axis, pivoted joint है, atlas and axis में pivoted joint है, atlas and axis में pivoted joint है, gliding कार्पल्स में है सैडल कार्पल्स एंड मेटाकार्पल्स ऑफ द थंब एंड आर सम एग्जांपल्स. डिसऑर्डर्स की बात करते हैं तो डिसऑर्डर्स ऑफ द मसल्स एंड द स्केलेटल सिस्टम. Myasthenia gravis autoimmune disorder affecting the neuromuscular junctions leading to the fatigue, weakness and the paralysis of the skeletal muscles. Muscular dystrophy, progressive degeneration of skeletal muscles mostly due to the genetic disorders. Genetic disorders में muscular dystrophy. Tetany, rapid splash, wide contraction in the muscles due to the low calcium in the body fluid. Arthritis, inflammation of the joint, osteoporosis, age-related disorder characterized by the decrease in the bone mass and increase in the chance of the fracture, decrease in the level of the estrogen as in the common causes. Gout, inflammation of joints due to the accumulation of the uric acid crystals. समरी की कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट लाइंस हैं. मसल possess excitability, contractility, extensibility and elasticity. Muscle fibers is the anatomical unit of the muscle. मसल फाइबर्स को ही हमने क्या कहा है? मसल cells, muscle bundles, vesicles. Each muscle fiber has many parallel arranged myofibrils. Myofibrils contain many serially arranged units called the sarcomere, which are functional units. Sarcomere are the functional unit, and muscle fibers are the structural unit, anatomical unit. Structure या anatomical unit of the muscle fibers जो है sarcomere functional unit है. uh, Actin and myosin are the polymerized protein with contractibility. Actin contractility generation of action potential, the cause of release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Calcium activate actin, which binds to the myosin head to form a cross bridge. Okay. Now, with the duration of the 50 minutes, I have completed this chapter 2, and the efficiency of completing the duration of the chapter was really amazing for me. Completing these chapters within a 50 minutes was really good. mm. Now with that, I have completed my human physiology or LAMs this done today. And so good night, guys. Let's end up this there, and we will start from the tomorrow our next series that we will prepare for upcoming test, cell and the tissue. Okay, let's end up this session here. Have a great day.